tariffs, the 50%, they have actually grown more than 20% in the month of November, just to the United States alone. Overall exports to the US are at $38 billion, which is higher than previous months. When it comes to cars, because he was specifically talking about cars in the BMW factory, India is exporting today more than 5 million cars globally, and it's growing at 20% per annum. So this argument about Indian manufacturing having a slump or declining, is that a fair argument? Or is Mr. Gandhi using a familiar trope, something that he's used before as well, of trying to defame India, the Indian government, the Indian economy story? Remember, he's famously agreed with President Trump, saying that the Indian economy is dead, when no one thinks it's dead. For God's sake, it's growing at 8.2% last quarter. You may debate and quibble with the numbers, but those are the numbers for what it's worth. 8.2%, fastest growing large economy in the world. So is this a familiar political ploy that Mr. Gandhi is using, which is to defame the Indian economy and India and the Indian government from foreign soil? Or is there merit in his argument that we're not creating enough manufacturing jobs? Now, let me put some of the facts out there for our viewers to judge before we open this up to our panelists. Here's where the numbers stack. There's no politics around it. This is hard data. Here's how the numbers stack. Some facts that Mr. Gandhi and the Congress should consider. In 2014-15, India's total electronics production stood at a little over 1.9 lakh crores, about 2 lakh crores, you could say. In 10 years, by 24-25, that has surged more than 5 times to 11.3 lakh crores. That's almost a 500% increase over the last 10 years. Electronics exports were 38,000 crores in 2014-15. That has jumped almost 10 times to 3.27 lakh crores in 2024-25. Now, if you look at the number of mobile manufacturing units that India had 10 years ago, it had just 2 mobile manufacturing units. In the last 10 years, India has added more than 250 units. There are now 300 units that manufacture mobile phones in the country. That's a staggering almost 15,000% increase. Mobile phone production, the value of mobile phones that are produced in India, manufactured in India, rose from 18,000 crores in 2014-15 to over 5 lakh crores in 2024-25. When it comes to mobile phone exports, there were only 1,500 crores worth of mobile phone exports in 2014-15. Today, they stand at 2 lakh crores. Even in vehicular production, which is what Mr. Gandhi was criticizing because he was at the BMW factory, if you look at India, circa 1991, when India was just beginning to open up, India produced about 2 million vehicles annually. Today, the same India has produced 28 million vehicles annually, which is a 10-fold increase over the last 30 years. So the question is there merit to the argument that he's making? Let's first listen into what Mr. Gandhi said, and then we will get some political reactions as well. We'll open this up to our guests as well.
देश के एलओपी का एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण दायित्व होता है। बहुत रेस्पॉन्सिबल तरीके से देश के एलओपी को बिहेव करना होता है, विशेष करके जब एलओपी विदेश की भूमि में होते हैं। पार्लियामेंट यहाँ चल रहा है। पार्लियामेंट में बहुत सारे महत्वपूर्ण बिल्स पे चर्चा हो रही है और इंडियन डायस्पोरा को एड्रेस करने के लिए राहुल गांधी जर्मनी में है और विदेश की भूमि से भारत को अपमानित करना और भारत के विरोध में बोलना कहीं न कहीं दिखाता है कि राहुल गांधी और कांग्रेस पार्टी के मन में किस प्रकार की भावना भारतवर्ष को लेकर है।
ये आलोचना नहीं है, ये फैक्ट है, और जो फैक्ट है वो तो कहा जाएगा वो सारी दुनिया को मालूम है। सवाल सिर्फ इतना सा उठता है कि विदेशी धरती पे जब प्रधानमंत्री जाके कहें कि सबसे भ्रष्टाचारी देश हिंदुस्तान था, मेरे पहले वहाँ लोग किसी का विश्वास नहीं करते थे, तो प्रधानमंत्री जर्मनी में, चाइना में, जापान में, हर देश में बोले तो वो बात जब आलोचना करें तो वो नहीं करनी चाहिए। पर ये तो दिस इज फैक्ट, ये तो पूरी दुनिया को मालूम है।
I want to go for a straight face-off on this. Tuin Sinha, national spokesperson of the BJP, is joining us. Sujata Paul is spokesperson of the Congress Party, who's joining us. Sujata Paul, let me start with you, ma'am, because, look, Rahul Gandhi is free to criticize the government, Mr. Modi's policies, the economy. All of that is kosher. But it should be in keeping with facts, right? Here are the facts. The number of vehicles that India produced in 1991, just as India was opening up, was 2 million units annually. Today, we are producing 28 million units. That's a more than 10-fold increase. Even in vehicle exports, India's automobile exports rose to 5.3 million units across all vehicle categories, growing at almost 20% year on year. These are the facts. You can't quibble with these facts. You can't quibble with this data. You can make political points, but let's be honest to the facts.
Let's be honest to the facts. And what Mr. Rahul Gandhi said was that TVS company's 450cc bike was being developed with BMW, and the Indian flag is flying high, and that's great to see. But in India, if you want to make sure that we are a strong economy, we should look at manufacturing because it is declining. And I am going to quote to you from the Hindu of 1st December 2025, where it has been mentioned that manufacturing has been at an all-time low in 9 months. And it says, I quote, "The seasonally adjusted HSBC India Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index, that is PMI, fell from 59.2 in October to 56.6 in November, highlighting the slowest improvement in operating conditions since February." So clearly, when you are going to be selective about data, that will raise questions, because if you're really patriotic, you will want your country to better. But you were talking about the mobile phones which were being exported,
yeah,
manufactured. Yes. And I thank you for doing that, because the fact of the matter is that if I start rattling off the data, which is really a long list, the components which are being used are not manufactured in India, please. It is all imported from various countries, even Korea, China, etc. So what is this? We are assembled in India rather than manufactured in India.
No, but
When the
can I just, ma'am, can I just, give you a couple of, that 59.2 that you talked about in October, I believe, was a 17-year high. The Purchasing Manufacturing Index has never been this high as far as India is concerned in manufacturing. Now, on the question of mobile phones, since you brought it up, here are the facts, right? Mobile phone exports from India rose from 1,500 crores in 2014-15 to over 2 lakh crores in 24-25. That is a more than 100 times increase. Now, please tell me, how is that a problem, or how is that an issue to be taken politically on? Like I said, please attack Mr. Modi, please attack his policies, economy, whatever you want to attack. But the data says there's been a 100 times jump in mobile phone exports.
Don't keep talking about attacking anybody. This country belongs to Mr. Gandhi as well as Mr. Modi.
Of course.
And if you're yes, so it's not about attacking one person. It is talking about bettering our country. And like I said, what is being exported? First, to import, we could manufacture that. And during the pandemic, we could have really become the manufacturing hub of the subcontinent, at least, if not the world. Okay. And clearly, somewhere we have been missing on that. And when you talk about exports, it's actually, importing the parts, the components, assembling them.
Okay, you made that point. We're assembled in India, we're not making India. 2 points. Number one, because of the Trump tariffs, 50% tariffs that he has imposed, in the month of September, exports to the US fell by 12%. In the month of October, it fell by 9%. Now, the point that Mr. Gandhi is making is we're anyway not growing our manufacturing to the extent that it needs to create 2 crore jobs in a year. Today, the contribution of manufacturing to GDP has slipped to 14.5, which is the lowest in decades. So yes, he has a point when he says that manufacturing is where you have the most labor-intensive, jobs that are created. Therefore, you need to grow your manufacturing. You're not able to grow it. So yes, you're not growing fast enough.
Zaka, good evening, Zaka. Good evening, everybody. Rahul Gandhi is a compulsive pessimist. Generic data does not do justice to India's manufacturing foray, the vast strides which India has taken since 2014. For me, you have already provided the difference. I don't even need to spell out the data because that is what I was going to do initially when it comes to electronics production vis-a-vis 2014 and what it is now when it comes to mobile manufacturing. So I'm not even getting into that. But let us realize the paradigm shift that has happened in the last 11 years. We have streamlined, we have focused our production into the absolute high value sectors. For example, the defense production today stands at 1,50,590 crores. What was it in 2014? It was a mere 46,000 crores, and India, could not imagine manufacturing some of the high weaponry which we do now, whether it is BrahMos or others. When it comes to shipbuilding, what is the size of India's shipbuilding industry today? It is $1.12 billion. In 11 years ago, it was 1/10 of that. So when it comes to the space sector, when it comes to the semiconductor manufacturing, they could not even think of semiconductor manufacturing. Our initiation should have begun ideally 2 decades back. Today,
but
in the next 5 years, India is going to be the hub of semiconductor manufacturing across the world.
That Mr. Gandhi is making is, when COVID happened, the government talked about China +1. We're going to be the China +1. People are going to offshore to India and we'll become the China +1. Nothing of that sort has happened. 2, you talked about semiconductors. Just recently, Mr. Trump has announced an alliance called Pax Silica. It has America and 8 other countries. It has Japan, South Korea, Israel. There's no India. If we are a semiconductor manufacturing hub, why is India not part of this rare earths and semiconductor alliance? So these are questions that are genuine questions which need to be asked.
Jaka, if you look at pure data, the sheer magnitude at which semiconductor manufacturing units are coming across in 6 different states. Obviously, India is going to be a power of its own. Certainly, the other, who builds up these alliances, and keeps India out. Only those countries would keep India out who know the prowess of India, which is something Rahul Gandhi fundamentally does not realize. He's fundamentally cynical about India's strides, about India's abilities, and which is what makes the entire approach of Congress party very cynical today.
So, Ms. Sujata Paul,
provide you data of India's
the point is, India last quarter 2, July to September, grew at 8.2%. No country on the planet, no large economy on the planet is growing at 8.2%. This is even beating forecasts by RBI, forecasts by IMF, by World Bank. Now, please tell me, if an economy is growing at 8.2%, fastest for any large economy in the world, then surely manufacturing must be growing, surely exports must be growing. I mean, this is basic economics, ma'am.
Come on, there are favorable overall demand conditions, but we're not being able to fulfill it. And let's talk about data only. If you talk about in absolute terms, fine. You can say whatever you feel like. We might be seeming to grow in absolute terms. But what about the share in GDP? It has been at 16 to 17% for the last 20 years, 15 years, or 10 years, 11 years. So where is the change? You have to explain whether in the last 11 years have we changed from 16 to 17% of the GDP in the manufacturing sector. One. Secondly, when you talk about the growth rate, is it, we are talking about growth rate here. We are not talking in absolute terms again. Because when you are looking at absolute terms, you're not talking about the increase in the dollar, rupee, so you are not even considering all those factors. You're giving me data about
$4 trillion economy growing at 8% is certainly growing in absolute terms faster than a $2 trillion economy growing at 5%. I mean, it's obvious.
I'm asking you, the GDP, is it increasing? It is, what is it as far as the GDP is concerned? You tell me, you give me your data.
It is increasing the last quarter, July to September quarter, India's GDP in the last quarter 2, July to September, which is the last quarter that we have data for, grew at 8.2%. which is
Listen.
higher than what anybody anticipated. Even the government did not
Listen,
anticipate it would get 8.2%.
Mr. Modi had clearly said, and he had said it correctly, that the Make in India goal was going to be 25% if we really wanted to achieve world standards. But if you yourself are sticking to this 8.2% growth rate, then I am asking you what percent of the GDP
It's
is being contributed
GDP
to
growth
manufacturing?
rate at 8.2. China is growing at 5%, madam.
I am asking you a question, Zaka.
Anyway, okay.
Give me an answer to that. What percent of the GDP is the manufacturing sector?
No. So
Can you give me that data?
I exactly asked that question to Tuhin Sinha. We are still stuck at 15%. We should be at 20 or 25%. I agree with you. That's not the debating point at all. The debating point is, if the Indian economy, the overall Indian economy is growing at 8.2%, then sure, and manufacturing PMI in October was at 59, which is a 17-year high, then surely you cannot make the case. No one can make the case that in India manufacturing is declining or the Indian economy is dead. That's what Mr. Gandhi is making.
Not at all. What he's saying is that according to what we had done during the UPA era, the momentum that we had built, did that momentum gain further in the NDA government? No, it hasn't. It has stagnated, and that is why manufacturing overall has dipped. And because the component of the GDP should have shown us an increase. If there was more demand, should it not be more in terms of GDP?
Tuhin, please respond. The contribution of manufacturing as a percentage of GDP has not increased. It's at multi-year low, and only manufacturing can create the number of jobs that you need, because otherwise you're going to have jobless growth, and that's been a constant complaint of not just the opposition. Even industry has been talking about jobless growth. Yes, Tuhin.
Number one, I think Congress just missed my point. Our focus on high value sectors, is where the growth in manufacturing is. If there are certain other sectors, which have not grown, the future is about AI. The future is about the space sector. The future is about defense. And that is where our growth has been something to watch out for, which the Congress refuses to acknowledge. Now, I am surprised at the way they are undermining the GDP growth. If there are sectors like services, which has always been a stronghold and which continue to be a stronghold and which are contributing to the 8.2% GDP rise, quarterly, will Congress, just abandon services? I think the Congress also needs to have a more holistic, a more pragmatic, and a more nuanced approach. Like I mentioned, these 4 or 5 sectors, whether it is defense, space, semiconductor, shipbuilding, are the future, and that is where, generic data and short-term data can be misleading, but our thrust on these sectors is going to take India forward.
I'm completely out of time. Sujata Paul, 10 seconds. I've got to wrap up after that.
Yes,
10 seconds,
absolutely.
please.
The Prime Minister had said, and it was projected that the manufacturing in GDP was projected to be about 25% by 2022. And the GDP share of manufacturing in 2013 to 2014 was 16.7%, which has fallen to 15.9% in 23-24. What are you talking? This is hard data.
We'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to both Sujata Paul and to Tuhin Sinha. We'll see how this plays out. I want to move on to the other big story, and this is a life and death situation. If you're in the Delhi National Capital Region, the air quality here has plummeted once again. It's over 400 in many parts of the capital. GRAP 4 is in place. Vehicle emissions are the single biggest contributor to Delhi's toxic air, particularly in the winter months. You have cold weather that traps the smog very close to the ground. Experts estimate that vehicles alone account for up to 40% of the particulate matter pollution in the NCR, particularly in densely traveled corridors. And that is why stringent new rules are being implemented to curb emissions and improve air quality. The question, though, that many Delhiites are asking, we'll get to what those measures are in 1 second, but what many Delhiites are asking is the prescription to the disease even worse than the disease itself? Is the cure worse than the symptom? I want to tell you what the Delhi government has today announced. We'll hear from Mr. Sirsa as well, the Delhi Environment Minister. Here's what the Delhi government has announced. It's part of the emergency measures under Graded Response Action Plan, Stage 4, which is in play in Delhi right now. The government has decided that only BS6 vehicles, whether it's petrol, diesel, whatever it is, only BS6 vehicles that are registered outside of Delhi will be allowed to enter the city. As of now, all BS3 petrol vehicles are banned within Delhi city limits. Exemptions are granted only for essential services. BS4 diesel vehicles have also been banned except for emergency services and vehicles that are used for essential services. Now, vehicles without a valid pollution under control, that is PUC certificate, pollution certificate, will not be supplied any fuel at the fuel tanks. Also, the government has introduced a 50% mandatory work from home rule that's been enforced for both government as well as private sector employees. But whether or not that's implemented on the ground, that's a totally different matter altogether. The most contentious one is the blanket ban on non-BS6 vehicles from entering Delhi city limits. And that has left many middle-class commuters in the lurch. And I'll tell you why. Because Delhi, unlike other cities, is not a fragmented city. It's part of a unit called the National Capital Region, NCR. So you have Noida, Ghaziabad, Gurgaon, all of it, these satellite cities are part of the NCR. Those cars which have a Haryana registration or an Uttar Pradesh registration will now be left out of the Delhi city limits. The ban is expected to impact a significant number of vehicles that cross into Delhi. Many people live in Noida, work in Delhi. Many people live in Gurgaon, work in Delhi. Live in Delhi, work in Gurgaon. So all of these people will be badly affected if they don't have a Delhi registration number plate. In the NCR itself, Gurgaon, for example, has over 2 lakh non-BS6 vehicles which ply between Gurgaon and Delhi or Gurgaon and other parts of the National Capital Region. Those 2 lakh vehicles will not be allowed to enter starting tomorrow. Noida, on the other hand, has more than 4 lakh. 4 lakh non-BS6 vehicles will not be allowed to enter Delhi city limits starting tomorrow. Ghaziabad has more than 5 lakh, in fact 5.5 lakh vehicles, and their commuters will be affected and they will not be allowed to travel into or out of Delhi starting tomorrow. The vehicle will be seized. That's what the Environment Minister has said.
We are ready. Metro is ready. Metro to doing their best job, And the DTC we have giving the best facility, The AC buses, lower fleet buses is ready हैं. हम तो request करेंगे आपके चैनल के माध्यम से कि वो हमारी बसों को इस्तेमाल करें, हमारे मेट्रो को इस्तेमाल करें, जिस कमर्शियल्स को थोड़ा सा ब्रेक करें कि हम इसको दिल्ली को और सुधारने में काम कर सकें. दिल्ली के साथ खिलवाड़ करने के कारण 11 वर्षों में दिल्ली का ये हाल हुआ है और दिल्ली की जनता को जो हमने अपना विश्वास जताया था, जो वादा किया था वो पूरा करने के लिए वचनबद्ध है और वो करेंगे.
So the toss for the 4th T20 International, the 5-match series between India and South Africa at the Bharat Ratna Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee Kana Stadium in Lucknow was delayed by more than half an hour because there was dense fog with the white ball proving hard to spot. But it's not just the fog, it is rather smog. And it's not me who's saying it. Hardik Pandya was seen on the field wearing an N95 mask for a few minutes before the match was to begin. In fact, the match was delayed by about half an hour. So it's not just everyday life, even cricket is getting affected because of the pollution situation, not just in Delhi or NCR, but also across the northern belt. Kiran Bedi is former IPS officer, former Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry. Ma'am, you've been talking about this pollution problem. You've been writing letters to everyone from the Prime Minister to the Chief Minister. You've been writing in newspapers about it. I want to first start with the specific measure that the Delhi government has announced, that they're going to ban all non-Delhi registered cars, which are non-BS6, from entering Delhi starting tomorrow. What do you make of this? Because people in Delhi are saying, what about cars in Noida? What about cars in Gurgaon, in Ghaziabad, the National Capital Region? A lot of people live and work, intermingle between these two cities. You have to treat the NCR as a unified unit. You cannot just say that cars registered in Delhi will be allowed, the ones who are not will not be allowed. This piecemeal approach, what do you make of it?
What I've been writing about is that you are picking and choosing measures. Each one will have an impact, no problem. What percentage it will have, there's no expertise on that. I've been asking for town halls. Why can't they have a town hall meetings with all across the board experts and bring the secretaries concerned who have a bearing, who all have a bearing on pollution, like agriculture has, industry has, right? Vehicular traffic has. Sanitation, municipal corporation sanitation has. All these have a bearing on the pollution. They all have a percentage. Now, if you pick and choose, that's what happens. I've been asking and repeatedly writing and urging please have a town hall meeting with the people. You are only doing a press conference and you're doing only a statement, and you only putting a social media on this thing that you had a conference, and that you're releasing a press release that you have a plan. The point is, why are you not having a town hall meeting? You don't need to have it in person.
Okay.
Just have the town hall meeting in by Zoom calls. You can live stream today, and if somebody is raising something loudly or impolite, you can always block him. So today you have technology to do town halls. So when you have the town halls, you will start getting citizens' participation and a holistic approach, and you will have listened to them. They will have felt heard about it, and
Okay.
then you can pick and choose, and you can then take the people into confidence that we will now, having heard all of you, here's a consensus. Here's a concrete execution plan. And in that, have the concerned secretaries of the departments concerned. You are not. So what I'm asking? Bring the elected and the appointed together
Okay.
with the people who voted you in. We have given you all a trust vote. Please remain trustworthy by being visible.
So tell me, ma'am, now that, for the longest time, Delhi, whichever government was in power, was always saying, stubble burning in Punjab, in Haryana, that's the reason, that's the biggest reason why Delhi has pollution problem and so on and so forth. Now the numbers have come out. Certainly this season, this year, the number of stubble burning incidents has come down substantially. Vehicular pollution is the single biggest reason for pollution in Delhi. Now, there have been only 2 or 3 ideas to deal with vehicular traffic. Number one, that odd-even scheme which the AAP government introduced some years ago. It was a great inconvenience to a lot of people. Clearly, it's not a practical solution. Now, you have this measure by the current Delhi government that non-BS6 registered cars in Delhi will not be allowed inside Delhi. Why can't we have, as you said, a whole of, problem approach, a holistic approach, rather than this piecemeal?
This is exactly what I'm saying. If now we are again picking and choosing, there's a diesel involved. There's a kind of oil which is being used. These are aging vehicles which are being used. There is a very large, there's a whole variables. So bring people together and focus on and declare the agenda. Declare the agenda that today's agenda for the Zoom call or for live streaming is this. Give us your ideas. People will join you, and then they can be moderated. Look, hasn't the Honorable Prime Minister been moderating students' chai par charcha?
Yeah.
Haven't we been? Don't we have the technology to listen to the people? So we can have partly in person and partly in. So we can have hybrid mode. And supposing you declare the agenda that let's pick up the priority which is causing maximum pollution in the country, in the city. And it could be vehicle. We want to debate on that. So rather than debate like on the channels, we have a hybrid direct engaged common man. Common man doesn't come. The spokespersons come on your channels. Common man is not being heard.
Okay.
So I think this is what I'm saying. If you want more ideas where it's hurting most, then even if it's vehicular traffic, look at the whole gamut of pollution, what all is causing pollution, even from the vehicle. Look, there's even traffic involved. Remember, there's a traffic congestion which does. There's a traffic regulation which does. The type of timing you have on the signals it does. See, there's even traffic police involved. So I think you are again picking and choosing. The effort is worthwhile, but the question is come together.
Okay.
Have an agenda for the town hall and then say, this is the agenda we want to thrash out. And then people will feel relieved. They've been heard. After that, of course, the decision will have to be taken by the government.
All right, ma'am, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. Kiran Bedi there, former IPS officer, with her thoughts on how to deal with this problem of pollution. Let's shift focus to another metropolis in Bangalore. A heart-wrenching tale came to the fore, an incident that would have put humanity to shame. A 34-year-old man was faced with complete indifference from 2 hospitals and passers-by, and eventually he met with an accident and died. Venkat Raman waited on the road, seething in pain. He later died, even as his wife kept pleading for help with folded hands. The CCTV footage is out. No one cared. The couple set out on a motorcycle for medical assistance after he developed severe chest pain, but little did they know that the nightmare that it would turn out to be. Venkat was first taken to the Udbhava hospital. No doctors were present at the Udbhava hospital, so they referred him to another hospital. Then his wife rushed him to the Re-Life hospital, a short distance away. At that hospital, yes, there were doctors. An ECG test had been conducted there. It revealed that he had suffered from a mild heart attack. Doctors there advised Venkat and his wife to immediately proceed to the Jayadeva Hospital, one of the more popular hospitals in Bangalore, because this particular hospital did not have the advanced treatment required to deal with a cardiac event. The Jayadeva Hospital was several kilometers away. But instead of sending them on an ambulance or a hospital vehicle, they sent Venkat and his wife on a motorcycle, the same motorcycle that they came from home. And on the way, Venkat had an accident. By the time they got to the Jayadeva Hospital, he was declared dead. This was an easily preventable death. This was a delay in treatment which has costed a life. And this tragedy raises serious questions about emergency medical care and emergency medical preparedness. I want to first play out what his family had to say.
Ma'am, on the night, what exactly happened? How did it begin? What is the sequence of events? Please tell us.
From morning 3:30, this incident has happened. He was paining more. It was paining more. So what he done? He vomited. After vomited, he went. I told to him, I'll call a sister, but he didn't wait. He took his scooty and he went out. I'll go to hospital. If you come, you'll come or no? I don't want. I'll go to hospital. After that, I went to hospital. I went with Udba hospital, but they didn't. The duty doctor was not there. After that, hospital of security, he told that go to Real Life Hospital. We went to Real Life Hospital. They took ECG and all. After taking ECG, my husband asked him, you give any treatment for this or you give any tablet? But they didn't give. They asked also whether you came, how did you came? They asked. He said we came from two-wheeler, but they didn't give any ambulance facilities also. After that, they told to go to Jayadeva Hospital. We went to Jayadeva Hospital. In Kadrinalli Circle, he got an accident.
He was driving.
Yeah, he was driving. When he was driving, got accident. After that, I'm begging all of them, but no one helped me. After that, lastly, after 5 to 10 minutes, his sister came. After that, she gave CRP and all. After CRP, he didn't wake up. After lastly, one cab driver came and stopped. After that, he took and went for Dayananda Sagar Hospital. In that Dayananda Sagar Hospital, so they took ECG in car only. They didn't took and went inside of hospital also.
So there are two sides to this story. No hospital can refuse medical care, emergency medical care, especially if you have a cardiac event such as this. But at the same time, not all hospitals are equipped to deal with it. So how does one, fight this problem? Dr. Devi Shetty is one of India's most famous cardiologists. He's the chairman and founder of Narayan Hridayalaya. Thank you very much, Dr. Shetty, for speaking with us. This very sad tale of a young man, mid-30s. He was taken to multiple hospitals. Passers-by, about half a dozen cars passed by him and his wife. They were out on the road asking for help. The first hospital said that they don't have the doctors to treat him. The second hospital did an ECG which revealed that he had a mild heart attack. They also said, we don't have the equipment to treat this, so take him to a bigger hospital. Before he could get to that bigger hospital, he died. It does raise concerns about hospitals denying emergency care. How does one deal with it? I want first your thoughts as a medical practitioner on this.
See, first of all, if the hospital doesn't have the infrastructure and the expertise to manage heart attack patients, it is better they refuse the treatment rather than admit the patient and not being able to offer the care. Because when the heart attack happens, there is something called golden period of heart attack, which is the first few hours. In that period, if the patient undergoes an angiogram and angioplasty or whatever the treatment, or just diluting digesting the clot with some clot busting medicines, patient can die. So hospitals are very careful in admitting young people with a so-called heart attack if they don't have the infrastructure. So I'm not sure what exactly has happened, but this must be the reality. Otherwise, why will hospital refuse to treat a 32-year-old man? But very unlikely. I don't think they have the infrastructure. They realize it's a ongoing heart attack and they won't be able to manage.
So, but Dr. Shetty, there is a twofold concern here. One, that hospitals cannot deny treatment to patients, particularly when they're coming in with an emergency situation. At the same time, as you said, and rightfully so, hospitals that are not equipped to deal with such a situation should not be treating the patient. They should be referring it to a bigger hospital. What does one do in this dilemma?
If he is caught in the middle of the road. Poor chap had a heart attack. Obviously, that's not the place where he lives. He must be living somewhere else. And if he's living in some place, if he had a problem at home, he will know where to go. But this kind of a situation, it is very sad. But the important thing is, I wouldn't say I'm glad hospital refuse treatment. I'm sure they would have given the first aid, at least whatever is required, some aspirin or a sorbitol tablet. But more than that, these hospitals are not in a position to do. My advice to everyone is, I'm going back to we have to ask a fundamental question. Why did a 32-year-old man had a heart attack?
Yeah.
That is a fundamental question. Now, we are missing a point. If this person who had a heart attack 1 year ago, if he went to a diagnostic lab, got one ECG echo and a CT scan of the heart, this heart attack wouldn't have happened, right? So it is very, very important that in India, people should understand the importance of annual checkup and get the test done.
Okay.
Now, this is the most important message I wanted to give you. About the regulation saying that you have to offer the primary care, there is a regulation and almost most hospitals abide by that. But if it is a heart attack, believe me, most of the hospitals, small hospitals, will not be able to take care. Especially a young man with a full-blown heart attack arriving, he has to reach a hospital where there is infrastructure. And fortunately, in Bangalore, every street has a cath lab where these procedures can be done. So, I'm surprised that he couldn't reach the right hospital.
So, Doctor, you talked about young people
Bangalore.
having a heart attack, people in their 20s, people in their 30s. It's become a phenomenon in the last few years, particularly after COVID. I don't want to get into all this conspiracy theories about, the COVID vaccine has something to do with it, so on and so forth. Those are conspiracy theories. But there has to be a reason why younger and younger people, 20s, 30s, 40s, are getting a heart attack. Why is that?
Young people always had a heart attack, even in the past, but it is just that since we are all well connected with each other, we get to know. I just want you to talk, you are talking about the young people. You please Google FIFA, Federation of Football Association, and write cardiac arrest. Then you see series of articles and you will read that in the last 4 years, 617 professional footballers had a cardiac arrest during practice session. This is documented. 4 years, 617 professional footballers having a cardiac arrest. Undocumented cardiac arrest among the professional footballers will be 10 times more. Now, you mean to say we are much fitter than a professional footballer who's in his 20s? Why this happens? All of them had a pre-existing disease. I want to send a very clear message to all of you that no individual with a normal heart ever develops a heart attack. All of them had a pre-existing disease that could have been diagnosed 10 years earlier if they had the basic test. This is the problem. This is what we have to address.
Okay. Joining us and enlightening our viewers with your thoughts. Thank you. So what makes a 50-year-old Muslim migrant settled for decades outside of India, married to a white European woman, raising Australian children, pick up a gun and kill random strangers in the name of jihad? What drove 50-year-old Sajid Akram and his 24-year-old son Naveed Akram to kill innocent Jews who were out celebrating Hanukkah at the famous Bondi beach in Sydney? The uncomfortable truth is that radicalization is not driven by geography, neither by prosperity nor family status, but simply by a lack of identity and a twisted ideology. Sajid was a man who left Hyderabad in 1998 and he barely returned home in the last 27 years. He came back only 6 times in the last 3 decades. He did not even return for his father's funeral a few years ago. His family traces its roots to Toli Chowki in Hyderabad, which is a very popular neighborhood. His parental home is empty now. Jihadist ideology feeds on such psychological vacuum. It offers a distorted but ideological clarity when life feels empty and when personal failures quietly accumulate. This is not about poverty or marginalization and those who are poor or marginalized taking up the gun. It is about perceived insignificance and killing people in the name of a twisted and brainwashed ideology. His severed family ties, even missing his father's funeral, all of this points towards emotional detachment. Extremism fills that vacuum. It fills it with a substitute called religious grievance and the path of finding meaning through violence. The targeting of Jews reflects how global jihad imports distant conflicts into local lives, and it turns personal grievances into some kind of civilizational war between Muslims and others. Sajid and Naveed never have even visited Gaza once, but were willing to kill people in the name of what's going on in Gaza. The involvement of an Australia-born child, which is Naveed, suggests that a certain slow radicalization is happening inside the home, not outside of it. This is an uncomfortable reality, one that needs to be confronted before the world is hit with the next Sajid and the next Naveed.
Australia's Prime Minister has now confirmed what investigators had been examining for days. The Bondi beach attack was driven by Islamic State ideology. That is the assessment from Australian authorities based on evidence found at the scene, travel records, and past intelligence checks.
It would appear that there is evidence that this was inspired by a terrorist organisation, by ISIS. Now, some of the evidence which is being procured, including the presence of Islamic State flags in the vehicle that has been seized, are a part of that. Radical perversion of Islam is absolutely a problem. It is something that has been identified globally as a problem as well. ISIS is created by an evil ideology that has been called out not just by the Australian government but globally as well.
After the shooting, police searched a car parked near Bondi Beach. The vehicle was registered to Naveed Akram, the younger of the two attackers. Officers found improvised explosive devices. They also found 2 homemade Islamic State flags. Police say this discovery was a key piece of evidence. It showed clear alignment with the Islamic State group. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese told Australia's national broadcaster that the attack was driven by extremist beliefs. He said the evidence points to Islamic State ideology. Albanese stressed that this was about a terrorist group, not a religion. Federal police also echoed the view. They said the attackers had aligned themselves with a terrorist organization. The attackers were a father and son. Sajid Akram was 50 years old. He was shot and killed by police at the scene. His son Naveed Akram is 24 years old. He was shot during the attack and remains in hospital under police guard. Police say there is no evidence of any other attackers being involved. Authorities confirmed that Naveed Akram had come to the attention of Australia's intelligence agency in 2019. He was investigated for 6 months. During that time, officers interviewed him, his family, and people around him. The assessment then was clear. There was no sign of an immediate threat. Monitoring ended after the investigation closed. Officials now say they are looking into whether he became further radicalized after that period. One major focus of the investigation is a recent overseas trip. Police confirmed that both men travelled to the Philippines in November. They entered on the 1st of November and left on the 28th of November. Philippine immigration officials say the father entered on an Indian passport and the son entered as an Australian national. Both listed Davao as their final destination. Davao is in the southern Philippines, a region that has seen extremist activity in the past. Australian police say they are still investigating why the trip took place and what the men did while they were there. Security sources told ABC that the pair may have undergone military-style training. Police have not confirmed that claim, but say the trip is under close scrutiny. On the day of the shooting, Naveed told his mother that he was going on a fishing trip. Police now believe that was not true. Investigators say the father and son were staying in a rental apartment in Sydney. They are believed to have planned the attack there. That evening, they arrived at Bondi Beach carrying long barrel guns. The shooting lasted around 10 minutes. Police confirmed Sajid Akram legally owned 6 firearms. Investigators later clarified that his license was issued in 2023. An early application had lapsed years before. Authorities are now reviewing how gun licenses are assessed. National and state leaders say gun laws will be tightened in Australia. The attack targeted a Hanukkah celebration. Families had gathered to mark a Jewish festival by the sea. 15 people were killed. They included a 10-year-old girl, a Holocaust survivor, and rabbis from the local community. More than 40 others were injured. Police have classified the shooting as an anti-Semitic terrorist attack. One man intervened during the chaos. Ahmad Al-Ahmad ran towards one of the gunmen and disarmed him. He was shot multiple times. Prime Minister Albanese visited him in hospital and praised his courage. Ahmad is expected to receive a National Bravery Award. Donations for his medical care have crossed 1.9 million Australian dollars. Investigators are now piecing together several threads: the Islamic State flags, the explosives, the past intelligence probe, the overseas trip. Authorities say they are examining whether these signals should have been connected earlier. Police stress the investigation is ongoing. What is now clear is the Bondi Beach attack was not random. Authorities say it was driven by extremist ideology, and Australia is now confronting how that threat went unnoticed until it turned deadly.
She's arguably the most powerful woman in America right now, the White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles. She's, for all practical purposes, the right-hand woman of President Donald Trump. And now she has spilled the beans on her boss and the people surrounding him. And the picture is not very flattering. She has said that Trump has an alcoholic's personality, even though Trump is a lifelong teetotaler. She's also weighed in on the fight between Marco Rubio and JD Vance on who gets to succeed Trump in 2028. Here's a deep dive. America was stunned on Tuesday by an explosive new article recounting a year full of unguarded conversations with the usually guarded Susie Wiles, the White House Chief of Staff. Trump's right-hand woman spilled the beans on everything from President Trump's alcoholic personality to the brewing war in Venezuela to who will take forward Trump's legacy between Marco Rubio and JD Vance. Susie Wiles, the Chief of Staff, who typically shuns publicity, gave more than 10 interviews over the course of Trump's second term while he's in office to Chris Whipple. Chris Whipple is the author of the most definitive book on White House Chiefs of Staff, who published this interview in the Vanity Fair magazine. Wiles spoke candidly about the challenges of managing a volatile boss in Trump, the battles that she has lost, and the curious collection of people surrounding President Trump. And right after that article went online, after a huge blowback in the Washington power circles, Susie Wiles went on social media to call it a disingenuously framed hit piece on me and the finest president, White House staff, and cabinet in the history of America. She did not take any issue with any of the facts that were mentioned in the article. All of her comments were apparently tape recorded, but she also said that significant context in that interview was disregarded. The most damaging blow in of all the things that Susie Wiles said in that interview was this. Wiles compared Donald Trump to her father, Pat Summerall, who was the legendary sports broadcaster who was an absentee parent and an alcoholic. While Trump does not drink, Wiles suggested that Trump had an alcoholic's personality because he operates with a view that there is nothing he cannot do. Nothing. Zero. White House officials were scrambling to explain what Wiles meant by Trump has an alcoholic's personality, even though Trump has been a teetotaler all his adult life. Trump has recounted in the past how he swore not to drink after his elder brother Fred Trump died of alcoholism.
I think the most egregious part of this article was the bias of omission that was clearly present, and we see a lot of this when dealing with the media every day. You will leave out important context, leave out comments and facts. You know, many people in this building spoke with that reporter, and those comments were never included in the story, probably because it didn't push this false narrative of chaos and confusion that the reporter was clearly trying to push. So what I'll say about our Chief of Staff, as you've seen from not just myself, but also the entire cabinet and a groundswell of support from people on Capitol Hill who don't even work in this building about how incredible Susie Wiles has been to President Trump. And he's been able to accomplish so much because of his leadership and his tenacity, but also because of Chief of Staff Wiles's leadership and her ability to effectuate his agenda.
Susie Wiles described several occasions when she had advised the president to go slow or not as far as he wanted, only to have him forge ahead anyway. She also said she had urged him not to pardon the most violent rioters from the Capitol Hill attack that happened on the 6th of January 2021, but Trump ended up pardoning them anyway. She also said that she tried to get him to hold off announcing the hefty tariffs that he did on Liberation Day back in April because there was a huge disagreement in his team. But again, Trump just went ahead and did that as well against her advice. Susie Wiles was more candid than most White House officials typically are about the cast of characters around President Trump. She said that Vice President J.D. Vance had been a conspiracy theorist for over a decade. He only changed personalities when he had to run for the Senate. She also called Russell T. Watt, who's the budget director, as a right-wing absolute zealot. She was also scathing in her criticism about Elon Musk, the billionaire friend of Donald Trump, who was given a free rein early on in the administration to take a wrecking ball to the federal government through his Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Wiles called Musk an odd duck, just as most geniuses are. She also called him an avowed ketamine user. Musk has said that he's a regular user of the antidepressant drug ketamine. Now, an important subtext of Susie Wiles' interview is the quiet rivalry that's brewing between Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Both men are vying for President Trump's nod to succeed him in 2028. The distinction that Wiles made between these two men, Rubio and Vance, is that she said that propping up Rubio, who's a fellow Florida resident, over J.D. Vance, who's from Ohio but is more acceptable to Trump's MAGA base. This is what Susie Wiles said about both men. This is how she described how both Rubio and Vance went from being sharp critics of Trump to now key deputies. She said, and I quote, "Marco was not the sort of person that would violate his principles. He just won't. And so he had to get there." As for J.D. Vance, his conversion came when he was running for the Senate. I think his conversion was a little bit more political. Rubio then told reporters, as he's previously said, that if Vance decides to run in 2028, then Rubio will support Vance and he will not run for office himself. Rubio and Vance seem to be the frontrunners to take forward Trump's MAGA legacy. And at least one of those two men came out and batted for Wiles after her explosive interview.
Well, first of all, if Susie, I'll trust what you said. I haven't looked at the article. I of course have heard about it, but conspiracy theorist. Sometimes I am a conspiracy theorist, but I only believe in the conspiracy theories that are true. And you know why I really love Susie Wiles? Because Susie is who she is in the president's presence. She's the same exact person when the president isn't around. I've never seen Susie Wiles say something to the president and then go and counteract him or subvert his will behind the scenes. And that's what you wanted a staffer. Because as much as I love Susie, the American people didn't elect any staffer.
Wiles has acknowledged that Trump had not been telling the truth about former President Bill Clinton's relationship with the sexual predator Jeffrey Epstein. She also faulted Attorney General Pam Bondi for her handling of the Epstein files. She said that Bondi didn't understand just how important this issue was to some of the MAGA base. While Trump has for years repeatedly claimed that Clinton visited Epstein's private island, Wiles said that there is no evidence of that. And most currently, Wiles also said that she was not on the same page as her boss on Venezuela. Trump has bombed a number of so-called drug boats. He seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. He's also declared Venezuelan airspace off limits. But Wiles says that if the president were to order land strikes, as he's been talking about, then he would need authorization from the US Congress. She has also made it plain and clear that Trump's ultimate goal in Venezuela was regime change, to remove the regime of Nicolas Maduro, even though Trump has publicly, on numerous occasions in the past few weeks, denied that explicitly.
is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
We'll go for a straight face-off on this. Tuhin Sinha, national spokesperson of the BJP, is joining us. Sujata Paul is spokesperson of the Congress Party, who's joining us. Sujata Paul, let me start with you, ma'am, because, look, Rahul Gandhi is free to criticize the government, Mr. Modi's policies, the economy. All of that is kosher. But it should be in keeping with facts, right? Here are the facts. The number of vehicles that India produced in 1991, just as India was opening up, was 2 million units annually. Today, we are producing 28 million units. That's a more than 10-fold increase. Even in vehicle exports, India's automobile exports rose to 5.3 million units across all vehicle categories, growing at almost 20% year on year. These are the facts. You can't quibble with these facts. You can't quibble with this data. You can make political points, but let's be honest to the facts.
Let's be honest to the facts. And what Mr. Rahul Gandhi said was that TVS company's 450cc bike was being developed with BMW, and the Indian flag is flying high, and that's great to see. But in India, if you want to make sure that we are a strong economy, we should look at manufacturing because it is declining. And I am going to quote to you from the Hindu of 1st December 2025, where it has been mentioned that manufacturing has been at an all-time low in 9 months. And it says, I quote, the seasonally adjusted HSBC India Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index, that is PMI, fell from 59.2 in October to 56.6 in November, highlighting the slowest improvement in operating conditions since February. So clearly, when you are going to be selective about data, that will raise questions, because if you're really patriotic, you will want your country to better. But you were talking about the mobile phones which were being exported, manufactured. Yes. And I thank you for doing that, because the fact of the matter is that if I start rattling off the data, which is really a long list, the components which are being used are not manufactured in India, please. It is all imported from various countries, even Korea, China, etc. So what is this? We are assembled in India rather than manufactured in India.
No, but ma'am, can I just give you a couple of that 59.2 that you talked about in October, I believe, was a 17-year high. The Purchasing Manufacturing Index has never been this high as far as India is concerned in manufacturing. Now, on the question of mobile phones, since you brought it up, here are the facts, right? Mobile phone exports from India rose from 1,500 crores in 2014-15 to over 2 lakh crores in 24-25. That is a more than 100 times increase. Now, please tell me, how is that a problem, or how is that an issue to be taken politically on? Like I said, please attack Mr. Modi, please attack his policies, economy, whatever you want to attack. But the data says there's been a 100 times jump in mobile phone exports.
Don't keep talking about attacking anybody. This country belongs to Mr. Gandhi as well as Mr. Modi.
Of course.
And if you're yes, so it's not about attacking one person. It is talking about bettering our country. And like I said, what is being exported? First, to import, we could manufacture that. And during the pandemic, we could have really become the hub of the subcontinent, at least, if not the world. Okay. And clearly, somewhere we have been missing on that. And when you talk about exports, it's actually, importing the parts, the components, assembling them.
Okay, you made that point. We're assembled in India, we're not making India. Tuhin Sinha, 2 points. Number one, because of the Trump tariffs, 50% tariffs that he has imposed, in the month of September, exports to the US fell by 12%. In the month of October, it fell by 9%. Now, the point that Mr. Gandhi is making is we're anyway not growing our manufacturing to the extent that it needs to create 2 crore jobs in a year. Today, the contribution of manufacturing to GDP has slipped to 14.5, which is the lowest in decades. So yes, he has a point when he says that manufacturing is where you have the most labor-intensive, jobs that are created. Therefore, you need to grow your manufacturing. You're not able to grow it. So yes, you're not growing fast enough.
You know, Zaka, good evening, Zaka, good evening, everybody. You know, Rahul Gandhi is a compulsive pessimist. Generic data does not do justice to India's manufacturing foray, the vast strides which India has taken since 2014. You know, for me, you have already provided the difference. You know, I don't even need to spell out the data because that is what I was going to do initially when it comes to electronics production vis-a-vis 2014 and, you know, what it is now when it comes to mobile manufacturing. So I'm not even getting into that. But let us realize the paradigm shift that has happened in the last 11 years. We have streamlined, we have focused our production into the absolute high value sectors. For example, the defense production today stands at 1,50,590 crores. What was it in 2014? It was a mere 46,000 crores, and India, you know, could not imagine manufacturing some of the you know high weaponry which we do now, whether it is BrahMos or others. When it comes to shipbuilding, what is the size of India's shipbuilding industry today? It is $1.12 billion. In 11 years ago, it was 1/10 of that. So when it comes to the space sector, when it comes to the semiconductor manufacturing, they could not even think of.
Viewers, I'm going to get straight to the point. And I'm going to get to it straight away. We confront a brutal question the so-called progressive ecosystem keeps dodging. Is this not a classic case of denying Muslim women their most basic right, the right to choose? The ecosystem glorifies the burqa. It comes out and says it is okay to wear it so long as the woman has a right to choose. But I ask today, why is the ecosystem silent when a man